Hello, you're right. We're back with Cassie, this time looking at some of the rules for wheels, the tether lines, and the carbon dioxide cylinder. So we're up to rule set number 7. This is the wheel rules. And some of the rules are pretty straightforward. Things I don't need to worry about too much because they're decided for us. The fact that it's got 4 wheels, the wheels have got to touch the surface, the wheels have got to rotate. We've got to use the standard wheels because we're in the cadet class. But there are some rules we can pay attention to. And the first one is the front wheels must be visible and they can't be hidden above 15 millimeters. So let's have a look what that means. We might put back in our track surface, we'll make that visible. We might look at the, for me this time it's going to be the YZ plane, the one in front of the car. Let's make a sketch on that. What this rule is saying is that above 15 millimeters off the track, the wheels have to be visible. So I'm going to project geometry here and look at the bottom of the wheels, one there and one there. I'm actually going to draw a rectangle on that across both wheels, and that's going to be 15 millimeters high. Now what this rule means is that if we look at our little picture here, above that rectangle the wheels have to be visible, which is halfway up the wheels, and so that means that front airfoil can't be covering anything above the top of that rectangle to obey that rule. So let you think about what needs to be done according to that rule. The next rule we're looking at is we've already talked about visibility from the sides and the top. One of the national rules is there's got to also be a 1 millimeter clearance in front and behind the wheels. Now we already know there's got to be a 15 millimeter clearance behind those front wheels, but there also needs to be 1 millimeter clearances around the other wheels. So if you want to check that, and this is mainly a national rule, I might do another sketch on this work plane here. So what I might do is once again project geometry just at the front of those two wheels, and I can't see the back of the other wheels, but I can probably do the front of these wheels. Clearly there's no 1 millimeter gap behind those wheels there. Where's my projected geometry go? Have I done the right thing? That's a bit odd. I'll see what we can do anyway. So let's do a little rectangle. Just draw a rectangle in front of there. I'm not really worried about that, except it's going to be 1 millimeter. There's a rectangle here. It's got to be 1 millimeter. A rectangle here. 1 millimeter. And last but not least, a rectangle here. 1 millimeter. So you might want to just move that across and have a little zoom in and just make sure that there's that in that millimeter rectangle, there's nothing in the way there, or there in front of the wheels. That's something else you might want to check if you're trying to be extra precise with your car design. The next rules are about the wheel support system. The wheel support system, if you look at Cassie here, I'll look from the top. The wheel support system is these things, the things that are actually holding the wheels in place. You can't see them at the back. I might just rotate that a little. You can probably just see one sort of sneaking just in there, the little wheel support system. Basically what it's saying is that the wheel support systems have to be completely behind the wheels. You can't see them looking from the side, and I'm pretty sure that our wheel support systems are behind our wheels. We can't see them, so that's fine for that rule there. And as this diagram shows, that the wheel support system has to be in that purple cylinder in between the wheels. We have to use the standard axles and things as well, so that's pretty straightforward. As far as the tether line guides are concerned, most of the rules for us don't make too much of a difference because we have to use the standard REA supplied tether line guides. They've got to be installed properly as well because they're going to test them, I think, by actually applying 200 grams of mass to each one to make sure they're not going to fall out. It's one of the safety things they're checking. But one thing that you can take control of is that there's got to be a distance between them, a minimum of 120 millimeters and a maximum of 190. We don't have tether guides on our actual drawing. That's something you put in by hand at the end. You just got to make sure as a team that you obey that rule about tether line guides. And the last section of rules is SET7-10. This is about the power plant or the carbon dioxide cylinder which powers our car. Basically, we've got to use a standard pod. Because we've used a standard billet to make our cars, it's going to have the right size chamber, it's going to be the right length and right diameter. But there are some rules we have to obey, and the first one is the lowest point of the carbon dioxide cylinder chamber has to be a minimum of 22 millimeters above the track. And this is an important safety one because we can be prohibited from racing if this is not true. There's going to be a minimum of 3.5 millimeters of balsa all around that, so the walls of that cylinder are strong enough. So we need to check that in our diagram. So let's go back to our car. Let's look at the this time it's going to be my XY plane halfway through the car. I'm going to draw a sketch on that. Luckily the car didn't run too far away that time. I'm going to cut those edges so I can see the cylinder there. Now, once again, I'm going to project geometry. And there's nothing behind our car that we can't have 3.5mm behind us where the actual cylinder's got to go in, but I can project this geometry there, there, and there. They're the main geometries you need to worry about. Now the first one is it's got to be 22mm above the track, and I've actually got that track surface. That line is the absolute minimum distance away from the car. The track surface is our real track surface is down here, way where these wheels are down. But let's see, just make sure our cylinder is the right height above the track. So width is okay, but it's got to be 22mm down. And I think if we zoom in there, you can see that, yeah, look, even if our car was the minimum distance away from the track, we'd still be just fine, but our wheels are making our car much more than 22mm away. So that's far enough above the track, according to that. But now we're going to make sure we've got this 3.5mm gap around the edges. I'm going to show you a little trick, some new little tools you might have seen before. So what I want to do is, let's see, I want to offset. I'm going to offset each of these lines. So I'm going to offset that 3.5mm because that's that minimum thickness. You can see there, you're going to decide for yourself if that's thick enough or not. I'm going to offset that 3.5mm. I'm going to offset that 3.5mm. I'm just typing in 3.5 and pressing enter each time. I'm going to offset that 3.5mm. Okay, but those lines aren't quite joined up, and look, I think you can pretty much tell it's going to be fine, but just so you can see some new tools, we can do what's called an extend tool. I'm going to extend those lines until they actually meet each other. So extend, 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 and that one's gone through there. I don't really want that little thing there, so I can try a little trim tool. I'm just going to trim that little section there, and there you see I've drawn that. That's the 3.5mm all around that, and it seems as though we've got bolted in that. So that seems okay. That cylinder thickness, or the wall around the cylinder, is thick enough. There's one more thing we've got to check though. I'll finish that sketch. We have to look at the back as well to make sure that we've got enough thickness around the back. So I'm going to click on that back face and draw a new sketch. I might zoom in just a little bit. Now I want to project geometry on that circle, so I can see what that circle is. Great, and I can see the center point. I can see Cassie's face behind there as well. Isn't that nice? I'm going to draw a circle. I'm going to start in the very center of that circle. Now, this carbon dioxide cylinder hole, that one that's white right now, that's 19mm in diameter. We're going to have 3.5mm either side of that, so another 7mm diameter, so 19 plus 7 makes 26. So I'm going to make that 26mm, and that's, as you can see, the minimum thickness we can have is that blue circle, and we've got a little bit more than that, so that's okay for our carbon dioxide cylinder. And if you've watched these videos, that means I'm pretty sure you've seen all the rules and regulations about the dimensions. You need to modify this car to make sure it fits the required dimensions, or you could design your own car from scratch. I think it would be pretty amazing if you did that, but it's got to make sure it matches all those rules and regulations. Good luck, everybody.